Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm a few days late, but I have read the AOTNR Requiem Part 1 and I couldn't be more pleased, more satisfied, and more impressed by the collective talent and commitment of the AOTNR team. This chapter doesn't read like fan fiction or a fan edit. This reads like canon, and Isayama should be proud. I know there's been some, talk about this being disrespectful, and the team have been receiving quite a lot of flack for that. But in my opinion, I don't find this disrespectful at all. As an author, I think fan fiction, especially good fan fiction or fan edits, is one of the greatest homages you could pay to an author's work because it means that you loved the work so much that you just wanted to continue on the story and you wanted to make it yours. And that's the power of good art, right? It's like all the musicians and the singers and the dancers who take an original song and then do a cover to it. Some of them will completely change it. Some rappers will take beats and just rewrite the entire song and the entire bars. But we don't look at that as disrespectful, right? We kind of look at that as, wow, that's awesome. You took this art, you took this song and you made it your own. And that is exactly what the team at Attack on Titan: No Requiem have done. I think because they love this story so much and because they respect Isayama's genius and his original text, that they've written this so well. You can tell that they respect the original text and they understand that without it, they wouldn't have had this amazing journey. Even though the ending is disappointing, right? It was an amazing journey. Now, I want to do this video to talk about the parts in this chapter that really worked for me and why this iteration of chapter 137 works so much better with the story up until chapter 137, and also the story from then on. I also think that it fits so much better with what I believe was the original direction that Isayama was taking the story, and I'm excited to see what the team at AOTNR does going forward. Now, this isn't an essay. This isn't organized. I've just written down the parts as I read it that really spoke to me and why, and I'm just going to share that. It might be a bit jumbled, but here we go. Just at the very beginning, right, I love this, and I actually got emotional when I first read it because you see young Eren. It's a beautiful callback of where it all began under that tree, and he questions Mikasa. He asks, Mikasa, but instead he sees his older self looking at the paths, which is so beautiful and tells so much because you can only imagine that is where Eren has spent a considerable amount of his time in the paths, is standing right there trying to figure out everything, right? Trying to formulate his plan, trying to find the best solution, the best path forward to save his friends, Historia, and Paradise. Because this man was moving forward, and I just love that there's something about the silhouette, there's something about all of it, all of this art direction that gives so much more, right? And they do say a picture paints 1,000 words. Straight away, what I really appreciated about these opening panels was straight away all the little plot holes that were left in chapter 139 in terms of why was younger Eren present in the paths, right? We as the fans were left to speculate. Maybe he's having a dissociation of identity like Reiner. Maybe he's splitting himself into two because he can't handle the trauma of the rumbling. And that's kind of what a lot of the fandom was left to deduce because nothing was made clear. What I really appreciate about what this chapter does is it makes sense throughout this whole chapter of course, younger Eren was there so that older Eren could show him, could download truth and the future into him, seal it away in his memory until a specific time. I just think that's really clever. Simple, right? It's simple. It doesn't take a lot. It didn't take the whole chapter to express this. But even just in the imagery and the wording, it makes so much sense that if Ymir was able to reach out to Eren, being the founding Titan and whatnot through the paths, that it would make so much more sense that the future Eren, who can see the past, present, and all of time, would reach out to himself soft, right? Because you're getting it from the horse's mouth. You're not getting a cryptic kind of pull from Ymir for freedom. You are getting from yourself in the future a download of why this is the only path. So I really appreciated that. I also appreciate the parallel of dialogue, the structure, where it's one conversation that is being had by 4 people, but separately. So you're not having to repeat yourself. You can literally jump from younger Eren and older Eren to Zeke and Armin and enjoy that. Now, yes, this chapter is heavy in exposition, and I think that the exposition is needed. And as a writer, sometimes it's so tough to do the whole show and don't tell. Sometimes, in some instances, exposition is needed. I believe that it's all about how you do it. And I think this chapter does their exposition well because they were given lemons, right? They're working with a chapter 137 original that was already divorced from the original direction. So it had so many holes. It had so many weaknesses because it was a retcon, right? It wasn't where the story was originally going. It had a different outcome now, and they were trying to work backwards to fill in the holes. What I like about this chapter is that there is no... It does the filling of the holes the first time, right? So they're having to go and fix a lot of what was a bit messed up with the first script. In this section, it again tells a story of the history of the worm. I like the way that they put it is that Zeke says, as I've been watching this history, and I think Eren uses those lines as well, that they've been watching it, right? It's kind of they're not living it, they're not sucked into it necessarily, but they are watching the history of Ymir and the universe and the hallucigenia and all of it, and as they're watching it, right, they are trying to make sense of what they see, and the story thus far, what they're able to pull from it is that this hallucigenia just had this hunger, this primal hunger, I think, of all creation, right, of all species, of all beings, to say, I will not give up, of wanting to multiply, of wanting to live on. And it draws parallels to humanity, that there is something in us that just doesn't want to just let go. What I love about this is that it then ties it to Ymir, right? It says that our history began because one pitiful slave girl defied her master and encountered a power that changed everything, right? And I love that that speaks of Ymir having the same hunger, that fight. I think they call it the last fight within humanity, of not wanting to die, of wanting to go out fighting. They make that parallel with hallucigenia and Ymir, and that is why I believe that specifically that hallucigenia picked Ymir at that point in time. Because if you're thinking that this thing has been around for millennia and, you know, the world has been around and whatnot, I'm sure Ymir was not the first person to have stumbled into that tree, right? There's lots of people who could have stumbled into it, lots of people who could have wandered into it purposely, but there's something specific about Ymir, and I believe that something specific, when you think of the themes in the story, is that fight, that hunger. So it's Ymir to the hallucigenia to Ymir, and then it's also to Eren, right? Because he is also narrating this history to younger Eren, and in between him and Zeke and Armin. And I love that these three are really connected in theme, and that in that idea of not giving up, of having that last fight. All of that is perfectly, I believe, amplified in the character of Eren, and so much so in this chapter. This is an Eren that is going all the way. You can tell by the stances, you can tell by his dialogue, and especially towards the end, some of it gave me chills. So I really appreciate it already. They're doing the work of closing in those thematic parallels between characters. They're reiterating it. They're really now not holding back. And what I felt lacked with Isayama's, I guess from chapter 131 to the end, was that because it was retconned, it didn't read necessarily as this is where we are headed towards an end. Most of us, I know for me, I got to 137 and I was nervous because I was like, what? This has taken such a turn, almost like a detour, that I just don't see how he's going to resolve all of this and bring it to land in the direction that the story was going, right? And then chapter 138 came and it was another kind of nervousness of there's no way he's going to pull it off in just one chapter, or maybe it will be a really long chapter. And then we got to chapter 139 and we absolutely knew that that the story had been retconned, right? It had been down a direction that it shouldn't have. What this feels like, this chapter 137, is it gets you excited. It is getting you amped because it's getting you amped for a showdown, for an actual end game that makes sense, right? Because there's nothing in this that lets me, I didn't read any of this going, why is this here? Why is this here? Move, move, move. And I felt like I was doing that with chapter 137, 138, especially chapter 139, right? Where you just felt like, why are you doing this? Even just the whole alliance arc. It's kind of like, why is this taking up so much space when you've got so much else that could be going in here, right? To make this rumbling arc satisfactory. Where is Aaron's POV? And I love that here we have Aaron's POV. We don't have to wait for chapter 139 to have him just be an Aaron that he isn't. We get to see Aaron. We get to see him kind of taking us through what it was like for him in arriving to the point where he realized that the only option, the only path was the 100% rumbling, not the 80% rumbling. I love that Armin is Armin. He's inquisitive. He's using his reasoning. And what this chapter does really beautifully is that it doesn't give us definitive answers like, this is why the worm is here, and this is why Ymir did what she did, and this is all. But what it does beautifully is it just kind of echoes back to the audience the questions that we have all been asking from the beginning of the series, which is, why did Ymir not just with her power go and kill King Fritz at any point at the beginning, or at any point? Why didn't she just end him? And then why did she die at that point? Why did she not get up and spend more time with the kids? All of these questions are being echoed back through the characters discussing. What chapter 139 did so poorly is that it gave us a lot of these like big kind of, plot points and big reveals, but with no kind of explanation, no lead up beforehand. They all came left field. And so you're kind of left going, what? Ymir was in love with her rapist and pedophile and abuser? What? How? Like, she was his slave. He wanted to kill her. How is this possible? And we're not given anything. We're just told by Aaron that he doesn't understand. Only Ymir knows. He doesn't understand. What I love about this chapter is Armin, and I think even Zeke and Aaron say that they don't understand everything. They don't really understand the motivations, but this is what they've arrived at. The genius of doing that is that because we don't have Ymir's point of view, right, which is a dismal mistake that Isayama did. There should have been a Ymir chapter. We should have heard from her. We should have experienced this from her. We should have got I would have much rather a POV of her basically from the day that she's running and collides with the Titan. That would have been amazing to see visually. It would have been amazing to feel, to have a connection with Ymir as a character, to have empathy for her and understanding. But because he kept her mute and we never really hear from her, it's just histories told about her from other people's point of view. Because that happened, everything about her just fell flat. Right? But this chapter throws up all these suggestions to kind of say, you won't hear it from the horse's mouth. We can't definitively tell you because she can't do it, but we're going to give you as much as we can. We're going to give you as much as we can so that you can understand this character a little bit more and have a little bit more of a connection and empathy with her, which for me failed to happen in chapter 139. I had no empathy, had absolutely no empathy for Ymir because nothing was set up for me to do so. It was just dropped in my lap. I love that they discuss about, Armin says, why didn't she just give up? Why didn't she just give up? It's because that last fight, like she was like Eren. She was like the Attack Titan, but with the trauma of slavery and the trauma of everything she went through and the weight of this godlike power, on the shoulders of an 8-year-old girl, I can't even imagine, skewed that. And she became, I guess, a shell of herself, right? And allowed herself to be used by King Fritz. And Eren, I think it's Eren where he later states that he didn't understand why she didn't just use her powers to destroy King Fritz. And I think Armin is the one that says, is it because I should really find the panels, but I think he says something along the lines of, is it because she couldn't separate her own desires from that of her abusers? And it's so powerful. Those words are deliberate. And obviously, none of us have, well, I don't know, maybe some on the team at AOTNR have a degree in psychology, but we know enough that when you are a victim of abuse, when you are in slavery, when you're in a toxic relationship, that you can sometimes trick yourself to believe that you are okay with what is going on, because the other alternative is so depressing, is so beyond depressing. And I'm a history buff. I'm Congolese, and when we traced our family on my dad's side, he had family that were captured and taken to the West Indies. So slavery is real in terms of our family and in terms of the transatlantic slave trade. And in being a history buff and a history nerd, there were commonly two camps of slaves: those who wanted to defy the masters and just run, and who cares if you kill me, who cares if you put me in a hole for 7 days, who cares if you whip me, who cares if you rape me, I'm just going to try and run and get my freedom. And they were the others who mostly were the ones that were the house slaves and were looked after better and didn't have as hard tasks to do, that they began to see themselves as a part of the master, not just the property of the master, but a part of the master. And even their language would change, and they would say things as, we is going to the market, we is going to do this, meaning it's not just my master doing this, but I am with him. And that level of just emotional and psychological and just I guess even spiritual trauma, right, can make a person feel as though, how do I know where I begin and they are? Where do I even find my voice? Because this is all I've known, and maybe I'm okay with this. And I love that they put that there, because in just that one panel, the amount of empathy that I now have for Ymir is incredible, right? Is because I'm able to go, man, I don't get why she didn't just use her power. But when these characters are having these discussions and throwing up these different suggestions as to why she did what she did, it's all of them. They're saying it's all of them, right? And I think even Eren says, if that is the case, maybe she wanted to belong. Maybe there was a sense of belonging that she found was her purpose. Also makes perfect sense. All she had after her family and her people were torn from her was this king who was keeping her alive because of her value now as a Titan. And he, raped her, yes, but gave her 3 daughters whom she absolutely would have loved, and had a sense of belonging with her abuser and their family. I mean, what a mind F, right? We would all be clinical, right? We would all be clinical if we had gone through what Ymir has gone through. Thank you, AOTNR, for keeping Ymir a pitiful slave, right? For not making her someone who chose to be in love with her abuser, but someone who was enslaved, who could not extricate herself from the will of her abuser, who could not use her own strength. Because let's face it, she was an 8-year-old girl. She wasn't a murderer. King Fritz made her a murderer. He weaponized her and all the Titans, right? So with this, I thank you, because what made me so mad reading chapter 139 is, hang on, you want me to now forget that this entire story, you have painted Ymir as being a pitiful slave, as being someone that I should feel sorry for, that she not only lived a life of slavery and bondage and abuse, but she's in the paths and she is cursed, she is bound to this will. Now you want me to believe that she wasn't bound by any external power, she was bound by her own will, and it was because she loved this man. And then you're not going to give me anything behind it. You're not going to explore that. You're not going to explore it. You're not going to try and give any explanation or understanding. You are literally just going to drop it on my lap and say, you have to swallow it because this is the last chapter and I'm running out of pages. It was lazy, it was thoughtless, and it was disrespectful to all the work he has done in the last 11 years, right? That's also what's upsetting about chapter 139 is, man, when you throw away the ending, the original ending, and the spirit it had and the power it had, right? And the intention, you're spitting in the face of all the work you did prior. You did a lot of work, Isayama. You did a lot of brilliant work, but now it's kind of thrown in the waste, and this redeems it for me. This chapter is redeeming those elements of the story that I felt were thrown away with the original 137 all the way up to the ending chapter and the extra 5 pages. And yes, the other part that I absolutely love is this, where Zeke is saying, in the end, Eren was able to understand her, and when I couldn't, that is why she went with him. He offered her something that nobody else could. What was that? Freedom. And this panel, the art is just chef's kiss. You guys are brilliant. You're so brilliant. And I know it would have taken teams of people doing this, not just one. It's amazing. It's immaculate, but such a powerful panel. And thank you again for redeeming the beautiful part in the manga where Eren sets Ymir free. Not just gives her a cuddle for cuddle's sake and basically has a one-way conversation, because chapter 139 would want us to believe that meant nothing, right? It makes us believe that meant absolutely nothing. Because it wasn't Eren that she was waiting to free her, it was Mikasa. So Eren was just giving her a hug for cuddle's sake. He just wanted to be close, and he just wanted, and what I love that this cleans up is, I think Isayama forgot that Ymir was literally on her way to do Zig's bidding before Eren cut in. If she was waiting for Ymir, why would she go ahead with the euthanization plan? If she wasn't actually bound by some form of not just psychological bonds, but magical bonds, right? Because the paths is a magical thing. It's a magical space. Attack on Titan is a fantasy, and the Titan and the paths and all of that is a magic system. It's a bit of soft magic, it's a bit of hard magic. It's a system because it is a magic. It is not normal, it is not of this world, it is not scientific. It is something that is extraordinary. It is ethereal, it is beyond the human plane. So it is a magic system. And when you have these, when you have Ymir about to do what Zeke is telling her to do, you are reiterating to us that there truly is something magical, something else that binds Ymir to the wills of those with royal blood. Because if you want me to believe that she was just there because she couldn't let go of her love for King Fritz, why did she obey every other king? And you could say, well, it's because she loved him and that was his order. But again, she was choosing it. There wasn't any kind of magical compulsion that bound her there. If she was choosing to love King Fritz then and perpetuate the Titan curse, then every single royal king that she obeyed and whatever, she did by choice. But the panels we were given in the original are panels that show us that Ymir having been a slave who was actually bound by the magical element of the pards and the Titan curse, was about to obey the king. Well, the man of royal blood, which was Zeke. But then Aaron steps in and sets her free, and it is beautiful and it is epic, and we all feel it because it's so earned. That moment is so earned. And Aaron says, was it me that you were calling to all this time? And he gives her that freedom, and then she lends him her strength, and they stand side by side. They become allies. Can I just take a minute to say that whole scene, and I think they show it even here, that whole beautiful scene mirrors Historia and Aaron in the caves, right? That sense of freedom. It mirrors that. And it mirrors it because Ymir and Historia are the parallels of the story. Not Ymir and Mikasa. That was shoehorned, and it was done in such a blasé, just a careless way. All the work that was done, Ymir, Historia, absolute parallels. And so I love this section because there's so many callbacks. Thank you, guys. Thank you for redeeming it, because there's so many beautiful callbacks to the story that we've been reading. And when you get to the last 3 chapters of any tale, of any story, of any form, you want to start heading home. You do not want to start introducing new, and there's this, and there's this. You want to now start to pull all those threads in together. So people who say, not every plot thread has to be closed. I actually say no. That every plot thread has to be closed unless leaving that plot thread actually serves the story. Because as a writer, it's lazy of me to introduce something new, big, flashy in the last 3 chapters and then do nothing to tie it to the story thus far, to make any of those new revelations something that has earned its weight and its position. And when it comes to manga writers, they don't have thousands of pages and 100,000 words to work with. So what Isayama originally gave us was meant to lead to, yes, Eren is the one that freed her, but 139 shut on that. Thank you guys for making it worth it. And then Eren, and you've got younger Eren saying, but are we free? Like, you've given her what she's wanted, right? Is it that easy? And this is beautiful because it's kind of like, no, that's almost like the micro part. So, okay, we've dealt with Ymir, but this thing is bigger. It's gone beyond Ymir because she, in her weakness, she in being bound, right, to the will of the king, has just created hell on earth, and ending this, gaining our freedom, goes so much more beyond her and so much more beyond me just freeing her. I now have to land the final blow. I now have to do what needs to be done. And I love that. And he explains the pards, right? Eren, this is just, yes, like, thank you for, that's Eren, right? It just embodies, and it's not a Chad. I don't know why people think that the fans who were disappointed with chapter 139 wanted Chad Eren. Who is Chad Eren? Eren does the rumbling not because he's a Chad or he's just evil and he's just snapped. He does the rumbling because after spending so much time in the pards grappling with the power of the Founding Titan, the Attack Titan, and trying to figure out a way for everybody, for his people to be safe and also for the world to be safe, trying to find a way that Eldians can actually live and be free in this world, he realizes and he sees, not just realizes, but he sees that there is no other way to do it. That if he wants Historia, if he wants Mikasa, Armin, if he wants his friends, and if he wants the Paradise and the future of his people to live and to thrive in a world where they are free by birthright, he has to do this thing. So I don't understand where Chad Eren comes in. This Eren is a feeling Eren. This Eren is doing what he's doing to the cost of his soul. I can't even begin to imagine the torment, the self-loathing, the hate that Eren is going through, right? Can any one of us imagine being in that position where it's not about wrong or right? Because when you Attack on Titan has never been about a moral high ground or a right or wrong. And I felt like towards the end, it's now started to do that, especially chapter 139, where Eren is hailed as a hero. That to me was a bad move, because 80% of a rumbling is disgusting. It's genocide, because it may not be the whole world, but there are entire races and cultures that 80% has snuffed out. They will never be again. There's agriculture, there's wildlife, all of it done, that will never live again in the 80% portion of the world that he destroyed. Why are we calling him a hero? We're literally only calling him a hero because you as the Alliance get to see another day, and Paradise does. But then why wouldn't he also be a hero? Do you know what I mean? It's almost like, sorry, I'm ranting a bit, I'm taking a detour, but why is he a hero for an 80% rumbling? If 100% rumbling is basically the same result, you all get to live another day. What are you complaining about? So I just felt like calling Eren a hero and that whole thing, and we'll remember him and all that. I just think that was overkill. And what it actually did was it moralized this tale. Like, there was a good and there was a bad. But then that moral scale is actually so effed up, because, I'm sorry, Armin, you're meant to be like the moral compass here, and you thank him for doing what he did. So I just feel what I appreciate about this is it shows that this isn't about morality. When you get to a point like this, and there's only one option, it's not morality that drove Eren to do what he did. It was simply that hunger for freedom, that fight for freedom, and his love for his friends and his people. So Eren tried to change. It says there's things that I tried to change. There's things that I tried to avoid. I saw destruction. I saw peace. I saw it all. And in everything that I saw, even the things that I rejected and the things that I tried to alter, I realized that there is only one way. There is only one sacrifice, and it's not going to be my people. It's not going to be Historia. It's not going to be my friends. If they don't get in my way, if I don't have to kill them, it's going to have to be the rest of the world. This is what this gives us. And I love it because it gets me so amped. I'm like, thank you. We get to see a glimpse of what this was like for Eren, of everything that he has actually tried to do. And this shows an Eren that is decided, not an Eren that's being pulled by Ymir's will. To what end? Mikasa chopping off his head so she can let go of her boyfriend? Come on, that just reads so weak. Whereas this is, no, he did all of it. He did everything he could, and this is the best and only option for that outcome. I also so love, right? He goes, I am prepared to sacrifice the world to assert our birthright. I am prepared to sacrifice the world. I love this, that we get Grisha, because again, we get an answer. What did Grisha see? What did Grisha see that eventually had him go, you know what? Eren, I'm conceding, I'm doing this your way. And what I love, and I would like to think that Isayama would have done this too, is Grisha, like, this is, of all the things to say to Grisha, you tell him exactly that, because Grisha knew what it was like to live, just like Eren, in a segregated way, just because of who he was, because he was Eldian. They were in internment camps, right? They were treated like animals just because of who they were born as. And I love that this echoes Eren's mother's message, which is a theme in this story of, you're special because you were born into this world. You're special because you were born into this world. It reiterates Historia's passion, her cry, not just to Eren in the caves, but to everyone, right? She said, wherever there is anyone who is crying because they feel like they don't matter or they don't belong or their life is useless, I will be there to tell them that is not true. Like Eren's mother, that idea that you, because of your birthright, because you were born into this world, you deserve to live. And Eren is saying, in order for me to assert that, I have to sacrifice the world. This is powerful, right? So Armin, I will keep moving forward until all my enemies are destroyed. Like, it gives me chills in seeing just Aaron's stature and his stance and Armin's horror, because this is Armin looking at his best friend. That he understands and loves, and he is seeing, right? He is seeing that this guy, this is a chosen path. And I'm not okay with it. And if I am not okay with it, it means that we are now against each other. I love you, my brother. But if you continue this rumbling, I'm going to have to do everything I can to take you down. And if I die because of it, I die. And Aaron is saying the same thing, right? It's that thing of, and that's what he tells them when he pulls them into the paths, is I'm not gonna take your powers from you. I'm gonna let you do you, because you've got to choose your side, right? And I'm gonna keep moving forward. And if you take me out, you take me out. But if I take you out, I take you out. That is something that Isayama forgot that he had written into the story. He'd forgot that. And the stakes are kept high, and the stakes are kept interesting, and they are a payoff. 139, it just cackles on all of our head, because that whole tension of, I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to keep moving forward. Of Aaron even going against his friends that much, because he couldn't guarantee that any of their survival, right? He couldn't. For all he saw, he was moving forward. Chapter 139 wants us to kind of be like, okay, for all of that effort and for all of the stakes where we thought shivers, like Aaron could kill his friends, or, you know, or even the fact that, oh, Mikasa had to kill him, is all turned to naught, because he had planned it that way anyway. He was pretending. So there was no real tension. He was never going to kill any of them. He was never going to go full rumbling. In fact, he fully intended them to stop him. So all the 80% that he happened to trample on, a lot of that was collateral damage, because he just had to keep trampling until his friends took him down. That's basically kind of what chapter 139 makes of all this beautiful genius tension that was built up. Even though I didn't like the whole alliance thing that much, at least those moments gave me chills, because I was like, bro, Aaron is going to have to either be taken down, or he is going to take down friends, because either side is not backing down, and it's heartbreaking, and it gets you invested, and you're there going, shit, this got real, because it's real world, right? There's no right or wrong. The alliance isn't right, Aaron isn't right. They're just fighting for what they believe is freedom and truth and goodness. And chapter 139, no, he was pretending. And he was just a slave to Ymir. It was just Ymir, you know? And all of this was for what exactly? So was part of Ymir's whole goal to also trample 80% of the world, right? Could she not have somehow orchestrated another way to kind of get her end? But I guess it's kind of like, well, it's okay. Well, I've kept the world in hell for over 2,000 years. What's 80% of the population? Throw that in there for fun. See how weak it made this moment? But thank you, because this, for me, when I read this and I look at these panels, I get so excited, because the horror in Armin's face and the determination of Aaron's words, and thereof, it's not, Armin, I love you. Armin, I don't want to hurt you. Armin, I don't want to fight you, but I'm going to have to keep going. It's none of that. And it doesn't mean that Aaron doesn't feel that. Of course he does. He feels it more than any of us could understand. But the power of this is it's saying, game on. Game on. This is paving the road to the end, and it's something that gets you excited. I don't feel nervous about this. I don't know what direction AOTNR are going to really do with chapter 138 and chapter 139. You know, I can get a sense, and I'm excited about that sense, but what they've done thus far is great. I think that's everything. I think that's everything that stood out to me initially, everything that I think worked. I think this is paying so much respect to Isayama, right? His world is genius. His characters are genius. The themes are genius. And this is just an iteration that is taking it in a different direction, a direction that allows a big portion of his fandom to be satisfied with the ending, right? That's the power of any story, is that no author entirely owns that story, right? Because if you write and you keep it to yourself, sure. But once that story is told and shared, it is owned by every single reader. Every single reader in your audience now becomes a part of owning that story and retelling it and contextualizing it and theorizing from it and going to church with whatever messages have been left in there. That is the power of storytelling. And I think this allows me, as a fan who was disappointed, to get to revisit this world that I love so much, and these characters that I love so much, and this story that has meant so much to me. And this allows me to go back to that place of joy, of absolute just AOT good times, and finish out the story in a way that I can go, well done. And I'm not saying well done to Isayama. Absolutely. Thank you for your world. And AOTNR, thank you for your work. I hope you enjoyed this video. I love the comments. I really do. I love that discussion. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to me as well for, the people that have subscribed. I do this because I just need an outlet to just geek out, right? I need an outlet to express all my feelings and thoughts about the books and the films and the manga that I love, the stories that have captivated me and changed my life. And I love talking to other people that stories mean as much to them, right? And AOT is the hot topic now because obviously the manga is just finished, but I'm excited to do so many more mangas. I've been watching mangas since I was 6 years old. I am the only girl of 3 brothers, so I was into manga. I did karate. I was there. Everything to do with. I was just outnumbered when it came to what the boys love to do, and I just loved it myself. So I've got so many animes that I really want to just do reviews and analysis on and essays on. And if you enjoy it, stick around. Thank you. Bye.